إن الحمد لله تعالى نحمده ونستعين به ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله تعالى من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله تعالى فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ونبيه ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. All praise and glory be to Allah. We thank Him and we seek His help and His guidance and His pleasure and His forgiveness. And we turn to Him for help from the evil whispers within us and the evil consequences of our misdeeds. For whomever Allah guides, no one can lead astray, and whomever Allah leaves without guidance, none can provide guidance for that person. And we testify that no one is worthy of our worship, our lives, but Allah, alone without any partners, the true Supreme King. And that the Prophet Mohammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam was indeed, in truth, His Prophet and His servant and His messenger. O people of Iman, O believers, have the taqwa of Allah. Be consistent upon the fear and obedience, love and consciousness, hope and regard for Allah at all times, as this is what He deserves. And do not die except in a state of complete and total, willing, loving surrender to Allah, a state of Islam. We began 2 weeks ago our journey through the advice of Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam to our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, where he came to him and said, Ya Muhammad, ish ma shi'ta fa innaka mayyit. O Muhammad, live however you wish, but know that you will die. And we said that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam is the most mindful person of death, and that Allah Azza wa Jal filled our life with the remembrance of death through those around us, through the white hairs, through the brittleness of the bones. So many reminders. But Jibreel alayhi salam wanted the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, wishing the very best for him, that highest station which he had, and being the best role model for us which he was, to hear it one more time in an unofficial capacity from his lifelong friend Jibreel alayhi salatu wassalam. Today, with the second statement, Jibreel alayhi salam went on to say, وَأَحْبِبْ مَنْ شِئْتَ فَإِنَّكَ مُفَارِقُ. And love whomever you wish, but also know at the same time you will separate from them. You will be separated from them. And a person may think this is the same advice as the first sentence. Obviously, if I know I'm going to die, then I know I'm going to be separated. But as we said earlier, the usefulness of remembering death is in the details. It's in sitting there and thinking what it's going to be like on an individual level. There's a difference between saying, yes, I know I will die, and thinking about death. There's a difference between thinking about death in a momentary sense that I'm going to have a janazah one day, and between being pulled apart from my loved ones on that day. It adds another important shade to the picture that you need crystal clear. Prepare for the separation between you and those you love most. For most of us, that's our family. How will separation happen between us and our family? Not will it, how will it happen? What will it look like? It will happen in one of two ways. Either they will be exiting first, or you will be exiting first. And only Allah knows. Will it be the young who bury the old, or the old who bury the young? Will it be the child who buries the parent, or the parent who buries the child? That is how unpredictable this world is. You know, we see it very linear, that I'm going to grow up, and I'm going to get married, and I'm going to have children, and they're going to grow up, and they're going to be successful, and I'm going to make them comfortable, and then they're going to bury me after a long, happy life. Though we have 1,001 reasons to believe it doesn't exactly happen like that. A very good friend of mine, or a good brother that I know from the masjid, he was the best of his siblings, on his way to finishing the Quran, polite and accomplished in dunya and in deen. 19 years old, you'd never think it would happen like this. In an instant, he slipped on his head and fell unconscious and slipped into the pool, and nobody was home. And just like that, it happened. And how many are the stories that are like this? And so at that moment of separation, when it happens, from top to bottom or bottom to top, child to elder, elder to child, how are you going to react to this separation? When it happens. It will. It's just a matter of when. Will it take you away from Allah? Many a times we see people that become Muslim, and they struggle a great deal clinging on to some hope that their parents will die after having become Muslim. And then they don't. And their love for their parents, it makes it an extremely difficult test. One of the hardest tests to imagine. And that's why Allah Azza wa Jal tells us in the Quran to console us that right before the waves separated between Nuh and his son. Even the best of people had to go through this sometimes. Separated between Nuh alayhi salam and his son. فَحَالَ بَيْنَهُمَا الْمَوْجِ. Right before that, he still had hope. He said, Ya bunay, my son, please ride with us. Irkab ma'ana. وَلَا تَكُمْ مَعَ الْكَافِرِينَ. Do not be not with those who drown. Don't be with those who have disbelieved. Because it's a much more difficult test than to drown in a pool or drown in a sea. That's just your dunya is over. But to imagine that your son has been separated for good. Don't be with the kafirin, not the mughraqeen. It is an extremely difficult moment in all of our lives. Jibreel alayhi salam is telling the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, love whoever you want, but make sure you don't forget that you will be separated from this person. This doesn't mean to disconnect from people emotionally. It actually would mean the very opposite in reality. It just means love your family, love your loved ones, love them passionately, but do not be controlled by this love of your loved ones, because it will fail you if you become controlled by it. Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, it was reported about him that he used to say, لا يكون حبك كنفا. Don't be tied down, burdened by your love. وَلَا يَكُنْ بُغْضُكَ تَلَفًا. And do not be destroyed by your hate, meaning love and hate moderately a little bit. Sometimes it's even hard to comprehend. I remember very young, before I even knew exactly what I was saying, I was repeating words to a brother that I used to meet with late at night. A childhood friend whose mother was in terminal illness, and I'm telling him how to prepare, as if I know. As if it's just talk. And I'm telling you, just try to realize that Allah created us all. Don't see it as mom and child. See it as all creatures of Allah. Try to disconnect somehow so that it doesn't destroy you. Too much love will destroy you. The same way too much hate will destroy you. And then those that you love, if they destroy you because of that love, you will then hate them on the day of judgment because they dragged you down. Though it was your fault that you loved them a little too much. And this is a bit of a coarse conversation. I know it may ruffle some feathers. What is meant here? You know, Ali ibn Abi Talib himself, he used to say this. He would say, أَحْبِبْ حَبِيبَكَ هَوْنًا مَا عَسَىٰ أَن يَكُونَ بَغِيضَكَ يَوْمًا مَا. Love your loved ones mildly, not too much. Yes, love passionately, but don't go overboard lest they become your enemies, those that you hate one day. Because opposites do that. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. You know people that become overly happy, they become overly sad. And those that become too loving, they become so vulnerable by that love that it turns into something very devastating later. And at the same exact time, part of what it means to prepare for the separation of your loved ones, them leaving you, we're still in the first, them leaving you, them going first, is that you help them prepare for that journey that you cannot do for them. If your child or your parent goes before you, they've started through that very long, very dark tunnel without you. And you cannot do it. You know, parents wish they could die for their kids. Some kids wish they could die instead of their parents. All parents wish they could do it instead of their kids. You will not be able to do that. You will not be able to. And so you need to do it right for your own, so that perhaps they may see this and be prepared for their journey when they are separated from you. You know, our Prophet ﷺ, he said to us, Al-waladu majbanatun, mabkhalatun, mahzanatun majhala. And this is a very interesting hadith, and you have to understand in light of all the other ayat that say they are a blessing of this world, children and the likes. He says, but children are a majbana. They are a source of cowardice, meaning sometimes you may be too afraid to do the right thing because you love your kids so much. So you're not going to spend in this cause, or you're not going to stand for justice out of fear for your kids, right? And then he says they are mabkhala, a reason for stinginess. Once again, you withhold out of fear for your children. He says mahzana, and they are a source of sadness. If they fall sick or they die before you, it is a great test. And he says majhala, a source of great ignorance. Meaning we become very foolish when it comes to our children. Why? Because we don't want to face وَأَحْبِبْ مَنْ شِئْتَ فَإِنَّكَ مُفَارِقُ. Love whoever you want, but you will be separated. Somebody's going to go, you or them. Someone's going to get off the train first. Do we do that? Do we sit there and imagine our child dying? Do we imagine our parents? This is easier. Imagine your parents dying. Say, no, God forbid, statements like this. You can't sit there and imagine it. But you may need to a little bit, for your sake and for their sake. Because they might go before you. This is the first half of أَحْبِبْ مَنْ شِئْتَ فَإِنَّكَ مُفَارِقُ. So that if they go, you only do as the Prophet ﷺ did when he lost his baby. When he lost Ibrahim alayhi salam, he said the eye tears. We love, absolutely. The eye tears and the heart is saddened, but to what point? To the point that we're going to blurt something out that can cost us our hereafter. He says, وَلَا نَقُولُ إِلَّا مَا يُرْضِي رَبَّنَا. But we only say, we don't say anything except that which pleases our Lord and Master, subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the cap of love. The second half of the equation, how many times have you sat and imagined your death in terms of you being separated from your loved ones? You leaving them. What will your death be like? If you think about your death, you wonder, is it going to be a sudden death? That's not necessarily a bad thing, by the way. It is reported in some hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, مَوْتُ الْفُجَاءَةِ, that a sudden death, he said it is ease, رَأْفَةٌ بِالْمُؤْمِنِ أَوْ رَاحَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِ. It's an ease for the believer. Allah wishes for him an easy, painless exit, as opposed to going through difficulty on the way out. Though those who go through difficulty on the way out, Allah perhaps is purifying them, so they reach him with a polished slate. But that's one imagination. Is it going to be a car wreck? Is it going to be a stray bullet? What's it going to be? Best case scenario when we imagine our death and our separation. This is the best case scenario. And it's useful to think about this. That's why Jibreel said it, alayhi salam, and didn't just leave it with, you're going to die. No, there's going to be extraction, separation. There's going to be a rippage of bonds. So The best case scenario in your imagination is probably you sitting around with your family, bidding them farewell, and them all being in your presence, trying to comfort you, crying out of love for you. One of the early Muslims had this experience. But look at what he caught. And I want you to catch it as well. He asked them, why are you crying? What makes you cry? As he was dying, they all began to weep. The women and the children, everybody. So she says, you've been so good to us, and we've never seen a bad day from you, and life will be so putrid without you, and who's going to take care of us like you? You were such a good man. And his children, he asked them, why are you crying? He said, because you were the best father ever, and there's nothing you withheld from us, and you were so protective, and now we're going to go off into a world without our father, orphans. He said, all of you are crying for yourselves. Who is crying for me today? You're crying because you're going to be a widow. And you're crying because you're going to miss me. You're going to wish you had a father. Who's crying for me? That I'm going to get lowered in a grave and be lonely. That I'm going to be sat up by angels and be questioned. That I am going to spend a journey now that will deliver me to Yawm al-Qiyamah. We don't really think about it that way. That's the other end of the separation that we need to think about. When Allah Azza wa Jal tells you in the Quran what it will look like, that they're not really as close to you as you may imagine. So, أَحْبِبْ مَنْ شِئْتَ فَإِنَّكَ مُفَارِقٌ. Allah says in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, فَلَوْلَا إِذَا بَلَغَتِ الْحُلْقُومِ. He captures this image for us so that we can keep revisiting it. Know when it reaches the throat, the soul on the way out. وَأَنْتُمْ حِينَئِذٍ. And you, the family, those present, at that moment are looking on. Yes, it's tragic, yes, it's devastating, but not as much as it is for that person. The moment when they find out, when the grades are revealed, he says, وَأَنْتُمْ حِينَئِذٍ. You at that moment, تَنْظُرُونَ, you were looking on. Then he says what? وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْكُمْ وَلَكِنْ لَا تُبْصِرُونَ. And we are, meaning with our angels, we are closer to him at that moment than you, than even the family, but you just don't see it. And yes, your family loves you. Absolutely, there's no doubt about it. But do they love you so much to stay inside the grave with you? Do they love you enough to not walk away? The Prophet ﷺ says, ثُمَّ يَتَوَلَّوْنَ عَنْهُ حَتَّى إِنَّهُ لَيَسْمَعُ قَرْعَ نِعَالِهِمْ. The first night, the first moments, he says, and then they walk away from him or her, and he could hear the qara, the clicking or the tapping of their feet as it's getting softer, as they're leaving. There's going to be a separation, a very, very, very painful separation. And now here's another question. These people that love you very, 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 very much, are they after the janazah going to not eat food? It would be haram for them to starve themselves to death. They're supposed to eat food. But do you think that their love for you is going to stop them from eating food even if it wasn't haram to starve yourself? Life will go on. It's supposed to go on. It does not stop for anyone. So you need to stop for your own good and tell yourself, what's it going to be like when I get pulled out, when I'm separated? And look at it through the lens of Surah Al-An'am. When Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَلَقَدْ جِئْتُمُونَا فُرَادًا كَمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. And you have certainly come back to us all alone, just as we created you the first time around. وَتَرَكْتُمْ مَا خَوَّلْنَاكُمْ وَرَاءَ ظُهُورِكُمْ. And you left back there all that we gave you for a short period. You left it behind your backs, left it back there. وَمَا نَرَى شُفَعَاءَكُمُ الَّذِينَ زَعَمْتُمْ. Allah then says, and I don't see all these intercessors. You know what shafa'ah means? Someone that loves you so much, cares about you so much, that they're going to step in for you and say, oh Allah, for me. Let them go. I'll carry their tab, their bill. Allah says, and I don't see any of your intercessors that you claimed had an equal right to you. No one has a right to you but Allah. And that begins with your love for Him. Because if you love Allah, there's no separation there. Allah says, لَقَدْ تَقَطَّعَ بَيْنَكُمْ. Now the bonds of kinship, of love, of warmth, these social, they all get ripped apart. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم. الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعد. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ونبيه ورسوله. Jibreel alayhi salam said, "O Muhammad, live however you want, but know that you will die, and love whomever you want, but know that you will be separated from them." So prepare yourself for the day that you will be separated from them, and also prepare them for the day when they will be separated from you. You know, it is mentioned, and this story has been circulated and I guess reflected on from many different angles in many different cultures. But there was once a very powerful king who had a very great-sized family. And he had married 4 women consecutively. But of course, like all kings, he had to die. And so when he felt death befall him, he went to the 4th wife, which he loved the most, and would do absolutely anything to please. He was insanely in love with her. And he went to her and said, "I've loved you more than all the rest. Will you be with me in my grave when I die?" She said, "Never, absolutely not." And she ran away. He was very hurt by this because he was most invested in his love with her. And so he went to the 3rd wife, who he loved a great deal, but not as much. And he said, "I've loved you my entire life. I've been with you the longest. And I need a favor now. Just one thing. I need you to be buried with me. Keep me company in the darkness of the grave." She said, "No, this is your death, not mine. Life is too beautiful." And she walked away. And so he went to the next wife, which he didn't spend as much time with, but she was the most loyal. She was a woman that did not treat others the way that others treated her. And so he said to her, "I've never come to you in a tight squeeze that you've come through for me. And I need you now more than ever. Please accept what they've rejected. Please be buried with me." She said, "I can't, I'm sorry. All I can promise you is that I'll deliver you to your grave. I'll attend your janazah. I'll make lengthy dua for you. But that's it. I'm sorry, forgive me." And she walked away. There was one more wife in the story that he had neglected for so long that he even forgot he was married to her. He wouldn't even feed her, wouldn't spend on her, would not acknowledge her, would not visit her. And so he hears a voice saying, "I will go with you." And so he turns around and he just remembers, "Oh yeah, there's another woman here in my life." He said, "You're going to come with me? I should have loved you more than all the rest. I should have took care of you more than all the rest. Everybody's true colors come out, and now I know your value. I'm so sorry. I wish I could make things better. I wish I could change them." And then he died. This story is obviously a metaphor. It's an analogy. This 4th wife that he loved insanely, we all have that wife. That marriage is our marriage to ourselves. You love yourself more than anybody. And you'll do for yourself what you won't do for anybody. But when the time of death comes, the very first thing to betray you is that self of yours that you love so much. The 3rd wife is your property and your wealth. You've loved it your entire life, but you know deep down inside a day is going to come when it's going to be separated. You're going to be separated from it. Because it would not have gotten to you until it left the person before you. And so it has to leave you to get to the person after you. Life will go on for money, not for you. And the second wife that you don't really have a good relationship with are your family relationships. You don't really, your good friends, your good family, you don't really give them what they deserve. But they're always there to advise you, they're always ready to accept you. That's your family. But at the end of the day, all your family can offer you is, I'm sorry, I'll pray janazah, I'll make dua, but then I have to go. Life has to go on. And that last one that is weak, that is frail, that is malnourished, that is ignored, these are your good deeds. These are your good deeds. The ones we should have focused on for so much, they're what last, they're what remain. They are the only ones that will accept, will agree to enter your grave with you. And so love whomever you wish, but know you'll be separated from them. But if you love Allah and serving Him, you will never be devastated. You will never be disappointed. Allah Azza wa Jal will make it up for you and then some. Just be for Him at His expectations. And He will be for you above anything you expect of Him. And that's why the advice, and with this I close, of Jibreel alayhi salam, one is built on the other. He says, live however you wish, but know you will die. Then he says, wait. Death is not just some screen turning off. Love whomever you want, know that you're going to be separated from them. And then what's the next statement, which we will leave to our next khutbah, inshallah, and do whatever you want of deeds, know that you will come to meet them. Each statement is built on the one prior. So don't lose your step in this life. اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا أحينا ما علمت الحياة خيرا لنا وتوفنا إذا علمت الوفاة خيرا لنا اللهم اغفر لنا هزلنا وجدنا وخطأنا وعمدنا اللهم اجبر كسرنا اللهم ارحم ضعفنا اللهم انصر إخواننا اللهم اشف مرضانا وارحم موتانا وعاف مبتلانا اللهم إنا نسألك بأسمائك الحسنى وصفاتك العلى أن تجعل القرآن ربيع قلوبنا ونور صدورنا وقبورنا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.